Thank you for staying with us. Now to our next discussion. In July of this year, the federal government sacked the management of 6 discos as a result of poor performance and appointed new ones to oversee the operations. And 6 months after, they're asking for a loan of $500 million from the World Bank. According to the World Bank, this project is to help boost the electricity access through metering and create job opportunities by increasing the productivity of private and public enterprises that will make the meters available at affordable prices for all Nigerians. And the federal government has now ordered all banks holding majority stakes in the 6 electricity distribution companies to divest their shares within 12 months. Will these moves bring an end to the epileptic power supply Nigerians have been enduring for years now? And joining us now to provide answers to these questions is energy policy analyst and team lead of Platforms Africa, Adeola Yusuf. It's good to see you again. Good morning.
Good morning. My pleasure to be on the program.
Welcome.
Yeah. This $500 million aid is not just, coming upon us at this time. If I am correct, it's about 1 or 2 years now, and it appears to be a reality now, according to the Buhari administration. But what do you make of, this kind of intervention?
Okay, thank you so much. And you are very, very much correct that it's not just happening now. It is a loan. I know when we want to, convince people, we use a lot of terminology, facility, Lifeline and all that, but it's a loan put on the table by the World Bank. And it is not only for Nigeria that World Bank has been doing this kind of intervention. It has done for a number of countries, and it put that on the table for Nigeria. But the government did not assess this last year. And before I talk about the reason the government did not assess it, it's important that I talk about the contemporary history of Nigerian power sector. So on Friday, November 1st, 2013, the Nigerian government privatized the power sector. And what they did by that was to sell assets belonging to government, to sell 60% of the share in assets belonging to the federal government in the power sector. And assets that were affected, were those in the generation stratum of the power value chain and the distribution stratum of the power value chain. We have 3 strata: the generation, the transmission, and the distribution. So government sold assets in the generation stratum and the distribution stratum. So, and that was what made us to change from NEPA or PACN now to DISCOs. So government has 100% share until that Friday that I spoke about, and it sold 60% of this. So then 40% was being managed by the Bureau of Public Enterprise. So the 60% that was sold, now after that, Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians are complaining that there is no remarkable difference between the PACN and the DISCOs. So eventually, you will not say the government has not done anything about that. You understand that President Muhammad Buhari had to, take the power ministry from the former governor of Lagos State, which everyone agreed that, is someone that you can't say doesn't know what he's doing, to another person because the burden was becoming so much. And he gave it to Malam Daura. Then after sometimes, when there was no remarkable difference as well, the president had to sack Daura and put Abubakar Aliyu. Yeah. Then, after not so much remarkable difference, the president had to make sure that, even though they called it restructuring, but yesterday, or day before yesterday, the power minister came out point blank to say that 6 managing directors of 6 discos were sacked, actually. And when they are sacking them, because of the complaint from the banks, because before they could buy that 60%, they had to access facilities from banks. So those banks are complaining that they are not working on that facility that they got from them. And Nigerians too are complaining there is no electricity, sufficient electricity distribution. So the president has to now sack those people and allow banks to take charge. But the agreement they had with the banks was that, because banks, the only thing they know is that financial language. So they need to sell it to those that will understand it. And before that could be done, now Nigerian is now approaching the World Bank, going back to what they rejected earlier.
Rejected it?
Yeah, they didn't assess it last year.
Okay.
Yes. So now Nigeria has to go back to the World Bank to get, that $500 million so as to help in ensuring that, banks got their money back, and those that are competent but do not have the financial muscle are able to assess something to get those assets and run it.
So I really want to understand why they didn't access this money last year. Is it that they rejected it or something went wrong in the process? Okay, so one thing we have to understand, the reason I said we should call it the name it is loan is that it doesn't just come out free of charge. It's not a grant. Okay. There will be conditions attached to it. Even though we are not privy to those conditions, the government at that moment cannot assess that money. If they assess the money that time, it is still going to go to the investors that have failed, to service their loans from the bank.
So it's a loan to pay back a loan.
Is a loan to pay back a loan.
So now that we are accessing it, are we not still going to pay back a loan, or how is it going to work really? Okay, so the way it's going to work now is that power sector is a highly technical sector. Right. Okay, so and some people that have the technical know-how do not have the financial backing. And another thing we have to understand about investment is that those investors don't invest because they want to provide service per se. They want to invest because they are expecting return on investments. Okay, so those that want to invest, that have the financial, power, do not have the technical know-how. Okay, so now what the government is putting on the ground now is to ensure that, okay, whoever have those technical know-how can now assess that loan from them and get, the assets from the banks. Okay. And it is going to be restructured in a way that, it will be paid back, and the service that they want to provide to Nigerians by those that are assessing it. Okay. What is going to happen is that the federal government. Yes, well, $500 million will be assessed by federal government through the CBN from the World Bank. So the money is going to be domiciled naturally in the CBN. Right. So whosoever that will be interested will have to talk with the CBN. It has to be put in the proper perspective so that those that have the technical know-how, How are we certain that these people have the technical know-how and will not fail again like the previous people? Okay, so that is the question about future, and I usually run away from questions that have to do with future. But because of the repeated failure, because you have to call it the name it is, in the power sector, I don't want to believe any government will collect or assess $500 million. I want to just play, cards with it.
All right, but what do you think about this kind of intervention? Because it appears government divested control or certain percentage of control from, the distribution and the generation arm of power. And now we're seeing some, inability of this discourse to meet their financial, demands, and federal government has come in. So what do you think about this? How does it, benefit the system? We have a problem on our hands. The power sector is still reading with so many challenges. Is this a healthy way of, intervening?
Okay, so it should be, actually. She asked the question concerning the Nigerian way of doing things, and I quickly ran away from that question. No one will beat his chest to say that, okay, this is going to be, this is going to be well managed. It's only those in government that should say that. But as Nigerians, it behoves on us to clamor, to be on the neck of government to make sure that this is well managed, because that loan is going to be assessed on behalf of over 200 million Nigerians. Absolutely. Yes. So the government has to do the right thing. That is why I backgrounded it with, efforts that we have seen the government of President Muhammad Buhari put in place to ensure that things are done in the right way in the past.
And by the way, you even spoke about conditions now, which we may not be privy to. Yeah. But what do we know about the World Bank example of, loans of this nature? Of course, the governors have been having a running battle, IMF intervention, the Paris, refund controversy that we've been on. So what do we know about this, conditions? And how sure are we that they will not strangulate businesses already?
Okay, a fact of this matter is that for a country to move forward, it has to take its power sector seriously. And business people will tell you that you use money to make money. In a number of occasions, I've said it even here and elsewhere, that's one of the major problems of the power sector is lack of investments. Okay, so if you have that millions of dollars, will you put it in this sector, having the understanding that you have on this sector? So it is only if government will not do this, I think it will wait for a long time before they will see anyone to do this. So for them to have gone back to this, I think those in government, I don't want to believe they don't know what they are doing. But the fear that I know that everyone is nursing through the question she asked, I could see that she is nursing that fear. Is how would they be able to manage it?
Yes, many share that fear.
Because I am interested in accountability and transparency.
Absolutely.
Are we going to get that with this move by the government on behalf of these people? Will this improve power supply from your own point of view?
Okay, so if it is done the way it is supposed to be done, it is going to improve power distribution.
Right.
Okay, so because we need to understand that the power supply, is a process. It started from the generation. So this one is not addressing the issues of generation.
This is addressing just
distribution. Okay. Right. So and from generation we know that there is another issue of transmission. On occasions, I've been here to talk about power grid collapse.
Yes.
That one is in the transmission.
That's for transmission.
So this is not addressing that at all.
This is not addressing the two. So it is for distribution. So one cannot say, based on the knowledge I have of the sector, that this is going to, positively, improve the power sector. But it will improve the power distribution if it is done in the right way. And I think that power distribution is the one that is next to a lot of Nigerians.
That's the lowest in the... how does it work? The transmission, is it distributed
so generation, as the name connotes, is, companies that are generating electricity. They do it through two major ways. The first one being the thermal, the usage of gas to generate electricity. The other one is through hydro, the usage of water or dam to generate electricity. Okay, so but over 60% or 70 or 80% of power being generated in Nigeria are done through the thermal. Okay, so immediately generate this electricity. One thing about electricity is that once it's generated, if it is not used, it's going to be wasted. It is not stored anywhere. So it is going to be transmitted, and generation are done in very, very high voltage. So it's going to be transmitted by a lot of people. Nigerians can relate with transmission lines that stand like skeletons scattered all over the country. Over 5,000 kilometers of that scattered all around the country. So they will be the one to now transmit, to evacuate that power from generation companies, and step it down
to distribution.
On transformers, on transformers, big transformers, and from there, the distribution network will now connect to it and distribute to Nigerians. Because as it is coming from the generation, it cannot enter any house and without having fatality.
Yeah.
So you have to go through that place. So what I just said about that is that the government privatized the generation, left the transmission in sandpits, and privatized the distribution. A lot of time, even though they may not like it, a lot of people have called the transmission the weak link because, the grid this year has collapsed over 7 times.
True.
And one cannot say for sure that it won't collapse before the end of this year.
So you are thinking that perhaps this money should also have gone to the aspect of transmission?
Okay, so the issue of transmission is different.
I know, but I'm saying, should we have introduced this money to also address the matter of transmission, the matter of grid collapse that you mentioned?
It won't be enough It won't be enough. It won't be enough because power, like I said, is a sector or industry that requires heavy investments. So $500 million can only address issues of, and let me quickly
even address the matter of distribution very well as it is now. We need to address it holistically.
It should, because one thing, it should if well managed. One thing about World Bank, IMF, or the CBN or financial system is that you can't just approach someone that you need this loan. There should be a lot of due diligence. What do you want to use it for? How do you want to spend it?
And even monitoring.
And monitoring and all that, must have been in place. If well managed, it should address that. And I want to believe that if well managed, it's going to address a lot of things that are having to do with us, because the distribution is the one that is closer to the people.
Right.
One thing is that there is poor measurement in that, stratum. A lot of Nigerians, customers, electricity customers now are still being given, crazy billing. Estimated billing.
And you blame, who do you blame for this? Is this solely at the feet of the discos?
Okay, so one cannot say one is blaming. You have to blame the government and the discos. Because you can't blame the discos alone for poor metering. Reason being that government still has 40% in all those businesses. And this now that the government is doing, because every government should know that anything that has to do with power, the economy cannot thrive if there is no power.
Absolutely.
Nothing will happen if there is no power. There was a day that we had system collapse, and I said it here, that until after that day that we will know a lot of people that, there are some, hospitals that patients are on life support. They are connected to the power. So a lot of things have to do with that power. So the distribution now, if the money is well managed, it is going to affect, it's going to, affect or impact that poor measurement. Because there's no way you will distribute electricity to someone. At the end of the month, you just come with a bill.
To expatiate on this, if well managed, because you've been harping on that, and I see you have some
can't get enough. You can't get enough of this.
You have concerns with regards to the management of this money. So talk to us on this, if well managed. Help us understand that. What would you expect the government to do in terms of management, proper management of this money?
Okay, thank you very much.
And if I can add that, as in we see, civil society, coming on board in many areas, facets of, society, but we don't get to see that much of, monitoring from independent, groups. Is this something that, CSOs can also, join in to ensure that these monies are well utilized?
Okay, so thank you very much. I agree with you that we do not see, not to say that we do not have in the power sector. We don't see so much of that in the power sector. And I believe until we start seeing so much interest in that, before we will be able to say that, the government will be able to manage it very well. So, government is, it belongs to everyone. Everyone is
part of government.
Part of government.
Especially in a democracy.
Especially in the democracy. But one thing that we should crave from those in government that are sitting on that is to make sure that they manage this very well.
How?
By making sure that all those terms and conditions are well followed. By making sure that there is transparency and accountability. And if those two are used, I think the government will not fall into pitfalls that other governments have been falling into when it comes to this sector.
All right. So the government has rated itself. President Buhari said yesterday, "I've done my best." And yesterday, the Prime Minister also gave his scorecard, of the strides recorded in the ministry. As an independent observer, how do you rate the Prime Ministry under the administration of President Buhari?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to do it in two ways. I'm going to do it on the level the government met it and how it is today. And I'm going to do it stratum by stratum. In the generation, we've been told that there has been an increment in the capacity to generate. But up till now, the level of generation is still what we are having. Not to talk of the reasons that they have been given, lack of gas, vandalism and all that, and so many other issues. in the transmission, we've had consistent collapse of the power grid. Even though we've been told a lot of investments have been sunk into that as well. Then in the distribution, yesterday the power minister, even alluded to that fact. Out of 11, investors, distribution companies, only three, according to the power minister, are doing the right thing, are still, floating above, on water. If you remove 3 from 11, that is,
you still have a majority.
8. So majority of them are being taken over, either being taken over by the lenders, by the bank, or they are not doing well, according to the power minister. So, and the distribution now that we are having is not in any way different from what they are having. Although, when it comes to the customer service, when it comes to, technology, deployment of the technology and all that, you can say that there's an improvement, in what we are having before, that we are having now. But generally speaking, it don't mean that the president has not done his best. I said it at the beginning of the program. In his government, he has used, 3 ministers. He used former governor of Lagos State, Babatunde Raji Fashola, as the Minister of Power. He changed Fashola to Maman Daura. Is it Maman Alhaji Daura? From Daura, Abubakar Aliyu is the one there now. So if we are having a change of ministers, it shows that the person, by the time he changed someone, it shows that he didn't get what he wanted, and he kept changing them. So it shows that he, on his own, putting in effort. And this $500 million now that I'm talking about, for the government to now go back to that, it shows that, okay, they are not seeing the result that they needed, and they want to work on it. So it won't mean that the government is not doing its best, quote and unquote, on this. But generally speaking, the mark is still around average.
So 22,000 megawatts. Are you confident that we're on track with regards to getting to that point? Because that is what the minister says this government is going to leave Nigeria with.
I am not sure it's going to perform that miracle.
It's a miracle.
It's going to be a miracle because the challenges that we are having in the power sector are enormous. I was talking about the generation now. Generation is doing, far below, it's not, I won't say far. The generation is doing below 5,000 megawatts. And you know the difference, even though we may not be so, we may not have doctorate degree in mathematics, but you know the difference between 5,000 and 22,000.
But the minister said we're at 8,000 currently.
No, that is the capacity. When they say they are having this capacity, it's capacity. It doesn't mean the actual generation.
Right.
As of today, we are generating less than 5,000 megawatts. Okay. So
even the capacity is not sufficient.
This from the review, done during the administration of Raji Fashola as Lagos State governor, they said Lagos State alone needs over 10,000 megawatts. Lagos State alone needs over 10,000. We are looking
at 8,000 for the whole country. Interesting.
In capacity.
Existing capacity.
Existing
with
capacity.
a
but
kind of
generation, what we generate as we speak now is not up to 5,000 megawatts.
Right.
Yes.
So getting to 22,000.
Getting to 22,000 may, needs some kind of miracle. I am an optimist. And I believe in Nigerian projects. I'll be so glad because it's going to affect everyone, businesses and all that, if we're able to get that. But I wouldn't want to say I pray that God will make it easy for the minister, but I know that with effort and with doing the right thing,
we have a few months away.
That was why I call it a miracle. I'll be so happy if we are able to get that miracle. Not that I don't believe not that I don't believe that it's doable, but I think it's going to require a lot. For this government to lift,
especially with the injection of this money that we're talking about, $500 million.
Distribution.
Maybe we should just transfer the money to manage it for us. But okay, the shortfall you said now might just help. Right. We don't even have time at the moment now. we may have to bring you back, to help,
to
talk about so many issues, because there were so many questions, that I would have loved to have you thrash, and but time isn't our friend. All right, Adeola Yusuf, thank you very much for speaking with us on TVC Breakfast.
My pleasure.